Hello and welcome. This is Oles Gerjuk with UATV reporting from Toronto, Canada. The Ukraine Reform Conference is taking place here, so our team in cooperation with Agri-Team Canada has launched a special series of interviews about the effectiveness of current reforms in Ukraine. So today we're discussing civil society, and joining us for that matter in the studio is Mariya Heletiy. She is representing the Ukrainian Civil Society Enabling Environment Activity Project. Hello and thank you for joining us.
Hello.
So, could you please tell us, Ms. Heletiy, how does the government cooperate with the civil society right now, after all the attacks that have been done against the activists, all the assassinations? We do remember the story about Katya Handzuk that was very tragic and horrific. So, how does the government cooperate with the activists?
Yes, thank you for the question. I would start from the very important element that civil society in Ukraine is the main driver of the reforms. We know
That's
that
true.
many reforms were implemented due to efforts of civil society.
Due to the push of the government.
And many reforms were actually developed by civil society. Civil society organizations, they developed legislative proposals, they developed draft laws, they developed also analysis for different issues. They worked together with parliament, with the cabinet of ministers and presidential administrations, and they were successful. And actually, it is true about the period till 2016, when the asset declaration for public officials was adopted. It was a big push from the civil society, basically by anti-corruption organizations, and therefore public authorities.
They didn't really understand this push.
They didn't understand, and they were not happy with this approach.
Of course, they were unhappy.
Yes, they were unhappy, and therefore they decided to continue their attacks on civil society. First, it started from introducing of asset declaration for civil society activists, basically anti-corruption one, but
as a retaliatory measure.
Yes, exactly. And then what happened? Then try to introduce additional financial reporting for civil society organizations, which envisage disclosures of personal data of people involved in activities. And
so this all thing was putting in danger the work of the civil society activists.
Exactly, and basically many civil society activists were under threat that one day they would be prosecuted by our law enforcement agencies due to undeclaring of something, or due to declaring not all assets which they have, and it's actually wrong because it's against human rights.
That is true.
Thanks to Venice Commission, which issued its opinion, joint opinion of OSCE and the Council of Europe opinion, that this law on asset declaration for civil society activists is against human rights, and it should be abolished. Unfortunately, civil society activists should declare it all their assets for 2017 and 2018 year, and only this year, on June, this requirement was repealed by the Constitutional Court. And it's a problem because civil society should not be put under pressure. They should be a partner.
Yes, and it should be encouraged to work more and to produce more results, ideas.
Yes, and actually, what we see during the first 2 years after the Revolution of Dignity, our civil society worked very successfully together with Parliament, and a lot of reforms were introduced and implemented. And we moved forward, Ukraine moved forward very quickly, and we now completely different countries than we were before the Revolution of Dignity.
True. It depends still on the reform that we would talk about, but yes, the pace is pretty fast, that's for sure. But what has changed after 2016? You said that at this 2016, when the e-declaration for public officials was introduced, then that was an extreme period, that was some heated phase between in the cooperation between the government and the civil society. What has changed after that, and what is the current situation with the dialogue?
Actually, the situation changed in much worse side, because civil society could not advocate for reforms so efficiently as it was before. Actually, they could not have this cooperation with parliamentarians who actually responsible for voting for laws required for reforms. And it slowed down the reform process in Ukraine. It's slowed down that many reforms, for example, electoral reform, we could not still adopt it. Also, other reforms which were very important. Also, a lot of bylaws required for a lot of laws required for decentralization were not adopted. A lot of legislation for improving operation of civil society were not adopted, and it actually had very negative impact on civil society in country development.
How can we address this issue?
And civil society tried to build this partnership with the presidential administration, with MPs, but they kind of boycotted all efforts of civil society.
Even the new President Volodymyr Zelensky?
No, actually, with the new president, civil society is still trying to build relationship, and we hope that after the new parliament would be elected, civil society could build this relationship and could discuss all the reforms which they have now developed and which are now on the agenda of civil society.
So you're still getting acquainted with the president?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And unfortunately, like because of the parliament, it's like a pre-election period. It always had negative effect on the reform because usually they campaign. They basically campaign.
It slowed everything down. We are running out of time. We basically have only 3 minutes. Could you please tell how to develop this legal framework for civil society?
Legal framework for civil society are already developed. We have a lot of draft laws registered in the parliament. For example, draft law on introducing online registration for civil society organizations. Also, we have a draft law for improving tax benefits for those for companies donating to civil society organizations. We also have on our agenda draft law on humanitarian assistance because it's very important as Ukrainian civil society organizations support our IDPs. And also they support people in need who reside on the occupied territories. And we have a lot of cases, a lot of problems with this issue, like organizations working in the east, on occupied territories, providing basically assistance to people there. They treat it as organizations which are financing terrorism or laundering money. It's misinterpretation of many of humanitarian assistance and financing terrorism.
Who would treat them like this?
Our security service.
Our security
and
service.
Also financial monitor.
This is rough.
We do have, yes. And basically, because of this challenge for civil society, we need to develop a legal framework which would ensure proper work of civil society organizations on occupied territories.
So basically, you need to be secure.
We need to be secured.
In your own country.
Yes.
And this is the most important thing. Well, this is a very thought-provoking message, I would say, and that would be a good note to conclude on. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you for being a guest today in our studio.
Thank you.
That was Mariya Heletiy. She represents Ukrainian Civil Society Enabling Environment Activity Project. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Oles Gerjuk. Goodbye.